Hey guys, welcome to section 8.8. I'm talking about writing linear equations. So remember before in the other section we used y equals mx plus b, that equation. So now we're going to use that today. We're going to figure out how to apply it with numbers. And then it's also going to require a little bit of patience from you guys because we have to use another equation in this. So there's two equations that are important for this section. So the first one is the y equals mx plus b, where it's the slope, and we have to change it. B is on the y-axis, and so we see written down there the slope and the intercept, the y-intercept. So for each number, the slope is 1/2. So what do? We're going to write this down. Y equals mx plus b. Okay, and we see the slope is 1/2, so y equals 1/2 x, and then the y-intercept is -5, so -5. So the y is 1/2 x minus 5. So to use the equation, we can look at a graph, make a table, make a graph, see the points, and see the -5, and figure out the slope is how the angle at which it goes up. So it's going up 1 over 2. So up 1 over 2. You guys get that? Okay. So the next thing. So remember, m equals y and x. The measurements have to change, so the up and down and the left and right. So sometimes we'll have 2 points, and we have to figure out is it going up and down, left and right. So there's an equation to help figure that out, to help figure out your slope. So it's m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So hang on. So this 2, it's not meaning the second point. So if you have 2 points, so the first point, hang on. Okay, so 0, 0. The second point, let's make something up, 5, 2. So the first point is 0, 0. And the second point is 5, 2. Okay. So y2 is the second y. So that means this 0 is x1. This 0 is y1. This 5 is x2. And this y is y2. So the y2, that's the 2 right here. So 2 minus y1, which is 0, over x2, which is 5, minus x1, which is 0. So it's 2 over 5. So that's meaning, so the second y point. So there's a y and there's a y, and x1 and x2. So it's important that you understand that for measuring. So in order to figure out the change in slope. So the next one gives you 2 points, and we're going to figure out the slope. So you could use a graph, or you could figure out the faster way, which is using this equation. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that's how you figure out the slope. Okay, so y2 is 5. y1 is this 8. So 5 minus 8 over x2, let me change colors. x2 is -2 and x1 is 4. So -2 minus 4. So 5 minus 8 is -3. We're going to change colors again. Over -2 minus 4 is -6. So we're going to square root this. So make them positives. So and then simplify that and makes it 1/2. So meaning that our slope is going up 1 over 2. So you guys see how on a graph it would take longer to figure that out, and this equation is so much easier? The m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so now we have a graph. So we're going to find the slope using the equation that we just talked about. So we have our 2 points. We have our 4, 8 right there. And then we have our -2, 5 right here. So looking at the graph, how many is it going up? So it goes up 3. And then how many does it go over? Okay, so it's going over 6. So that simplifies to 1/2 is our slope. So it's going up 1 over 2. So the way that you figure out slope using a graph is that you figure out how many it goes from one point to the other, how many it goes up the graph and over. So up 1 over 2, you can see that when you use the slope, each time it goes up 1 over 2, it makes an intersection with a point. So 1/2 is the same as -1/2. So you're going down 1 over 2 to the left. So to figure out some other points, the down 1 over 2, that would be more parts of this line. So that's a visual way to measure the change or the slope. Okay, so the next part. So now this is something new. It's a new equation. And this is if you know one point of your line segment, but you don't know the change in the line. So this is an equation for that. So y, this is called the point slope form. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and the x's are in parentheses. So this equation, it looks very similar to the other ones, but it is different. And you see this equation over here. But these are actually the same equations. So you'll use this if you have a point and you have the slope. You'll use the other one if you don't know where it's going to cross the y-axis. So if you know the point and the slope, you'll use this other one, this equation over here, y minus y1. And so now we're going to practice. Okay, so write an equation for the line that passes through 3, 0, and 6, negative 3. So remember the slope. We have to figure out with the m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that'll give us our slope. So let's put in those numbers. Okay. Alright. So x2 or y2 is negative 3 minus 0 over our x2 is 6 minus 3. So that's going to equal negative 3 over 3. So square root that to get rid of the negative, and it's going to equal 1 over 1, negative 1. And that's our slope. So our slope, or m, will be negative 1 over 1. So now what do? We don't really know where the points cross the y-axis. So we could draw a graph and see exactly where it's crossing. Or we could use the other equation. Let's see. Let's draw it out. The y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Okay? So y1 we can put in right there. We have it. It doesn't matter which point you use from your equation, so we're just going to use the first point up here. Okay, so x1 is the 3, so we'll draw that in. So x minus 3 and y minus 0 equals m, which is our slope, which we figured out, just negative 1 over 1. Y minus 0 is what's left, or y equals negative 1 times x minus 3. That's the point slope form. This is a little bit more challenging for figuring out the slope and everything of the two, using the 2 points, and you'll use this one for the point slope form. And there's a graph to help you. So remember, if the y minus equals mx plus b in the intercept, so if the graph uses this, so if there's a graph, you'll use that. And then if there isn't a graph, you use the 2-point form, which is this one right here. So the test will use different points of x and y. You'll have to practice figuring out those during class of how. I hope that through practicing, this will become a little bit more clear for you, and you'll figure out which formula to use for which equation.